Have you ever wondered why love often seems so complicated? Why, even when we're in love, we feel like something is missing? Welcome to a journey to unravel the mysteries of sexuality and love, where each encounter brings us a new understanding. But what if I told you there's more than just physical attraction at play? What if I told you our choices in love have deep roots in our inner energies? Get ready to dive into a world where the connection between love and spirituality is the most closely guarded secret of all religions. My name is Gabriel, and I'm responsible for helping people reach high levels of spirituality, personal and psychological development, and being able to attract women solely through semen retention. If you're with me on this journey, join our community by leaving your like and subscribing to the channel. The cornerstone of all secret doctrines is sex. It's a taboo topic, a weakness that can lead one into fanaticism and ignorance. It's the stumbling block of sex that Adam and Eve encountered in their fall from grace. They fell not only due to disobedience, but also due to sexual disobedience. At the core of all human endeavors lies the crucial significance of sex. Religion is no exception. However, the public has not been introduced to the sacred role of sexuality in the esoteric or secret knowledge hidden within every religion. So, in modern times, sex has become desecrated and polluted, whereas it was once acknowledged as the gateway to the mysteries of the divine. We must understand that rebirth is an unequivocal sexual issue. That's why the seed remains in those who are born of God. To be born of God means to be reborn, using the process of birth. Nothing is born without a sexual component. The same verse further implies that sin is closely connected to sexuality. The origin of sin can be traced back to the misuse of sex, when Eve ate the forbidden fruit with Adam. Apart from God's commandments, that's why the fruit was appealing to the senses. Sex always carries a sensual allure. Adam and Eve symbolize a generation of evolving souls who reached the pinnacle of mechanical evolution. They became aware of their own identities and were ready to progress to the human stage. Essentially, they were innocent and unaware of the concepts of good and evil. Similar to animals, they had an innate drive to procreate without the ability to reason. This natural instinct was under the supervision of Jehovah Elohim, referring to advanced intelligences, souls that had reached the angelic state and were in charge of overseeing the developing and deep life forces on earth. Once these developing souls were ready for human bodies, they were born into them. Although they were still innocent, they were guided by Jehovah Elohim. They were taught how to procreate in an excellent way, the way of a human to unite, transmute within the sexual act, and procreate. In ancient times, the male body only needed to release a single sperm to unite with a single egg, without the need to ejaculate millions of sperm. Consequently, both men and women never reached orgasm or ejaculation. Instead of wasting their sexual energy, it was transformed into a paradise of body and soul. The earth was a living paradise. However, there was also something sinister at play. Something slithered like a snake through the blood of this newborn humanity. Temptation, a great gift of Mephistopheles, was overwhelming, leading to sexual disobedience. This innocent humanity began to copulate like animals, a step backward, reaching orgasm and opening their eyes to lust, generating all the sin in the world. The gates of Eden closed and humanity descended into perversion. The serpent represents the primal force in human nature that drives sexual desire in both men and women. It symbolizes knowledge and power, entwined around the tree of knowledge. It embodies both the power and the wrath of the divine. When the serpent is balanced with chastity, it allows individuals to harness the creative and destructive forces of God within themselves. However, when temptation takes over, it leads to whoredom, the act of climax. Whoredom or orgasm stripped men of their ability to naturally procreate. While women retained a mechanical means of reproduction through ovulation, it is possible to re-educate the body to procreate without the need for orgasm, returning to the primal sexual system of Eden. Through disobedience, humans gained a profound understanding of good and evil, experiencing both joy and sorrow. The time has come to break free from this cycle and return to the divine source, the pleroma, embracing both knowledge and morality. To reach our origin, we must resist the temptation to indulge in the forbidden fruits of the tree of good and evil. Orgasm, though powerful and intense, drains the essence of the human being in a moment of desire. Sexual transmutation, on the other hand, represents the elevation of human sexuality beyond mere animal impulses. This path leads to the true expression of human sexuality and the return to a state of paradise. Sexual transmutation is how one is born of the spirit. One is reborn by harnessing the sexual nature, not through whoredom, but through transmutation. This is what Jesus symbolized in his first miracle, turning water into wine at the wedding. Contrary to popular belief, Jesus did not condone excessive drinking at weddings. It is illogical to think that Jesus would perform a miracle to encourage drinking. Instead, Jesus conveyed the lesson that the inner Christ within each individual must transform the waters of the wedding into wine. The wine represents transmuted water with the Spirit of God dwelling within the waters. The sacred act of marriage involves participating in sexual activity without reaching orgasm. This process transforms water into wine, with the wine symbolizing the blood of Christ. It induces a spiritual drunkenness, a mystical unity that transcends the temporal pleasures and pains of the physical world. The sexual act with orgasm is a carnal and polluted act of sexuality. The sexual act without orgasm, with sexual transmutation, is a pure spiritual experience. Transmutation can take place when one is single. However, the most exquisite form of transmutation is reserved for couples. Transmutation is the expression of true human sexuality. Transmutation is the path to being reborn. And it is the only path to be reborn. Creation in all its glory is always the outcome of sexual energy. To create is a sexual issue. If an architect wants to build a house, he must first create it in his mind. He must make a blueprint that requires creative energy. We can also say it requires sexual energy because creativity and sexuality are one and the same. Creativity is sexuality. When we understand this, we begin to understand what sex truly is. With that in mind, it may not seem so absurd to say that imagination is fueled by sexual energy, because imagination is a creative act. Consequently, the quality of our sexual energy is reflected in the quality of our creative faculties, whether in business, recreation, or the pursuit of spiritual truths. To understand the mysteries of life and death, we need a fertile mind because certain concepts are difficult to grasp without a very creative mind. In other words, full of sexual power. A thought will burn on different qualities of fuel, but it is better that it runs on purified fuel. Sexual energy that is impure, that is mixed with lust, is a type of energy that damages the mind. It leads to its degeneration. Just as immaculate sexual energy has the ability to revive the spirit. Animal sexuality is one thing, and human sexuality is another. We evolved under animal sexuality. However, what is needed to become a man is to engage in the behavior of human sexuality. This is how the intellectual animal creates himself into a true human. Sexual energy is important. To use it wisely. To waste it is something terribly foolish. On the other hand, sexual energy is something that cannot be bottled up either. Sexual magic refers to an ancient science known and protected by the purest, most spiritually advanced people, whose purpose and goal are the utilization and perfection of our sexual powers. Sexual transmutation, sexual magic, or white tantrism, is a very sacred and holy act, and therefore it is not something to be taken lightly. Those who wish to engage in this practice must feel that they are ready to enter into a covenant with God. It is a permanent decision to never whore again, never reach an orgasm, never spill a drop of semen, not just for a month or a year, but forever. Sexual magic can only take place between a couple in a serious, dedicated, and loving relationship. This may mean being married according to the laws of your country, but not necessarily really. The true sacrament of holy matrimony is the sexual act itself, for it is how one truly becomes married to the other. Karmic relationships are created and maintained through sexual relations. So it is said. With all this in mind, anyone who is able and willing can begin practicing sexual magic. Single individuals wishing to begin sexual magic must first cease all forms of sexual misconduct, whoredom, and begin to purify their hearts and minds through the methods of psychological eradication and sexual transmutation. These aspirants must patiently wait until their karma provides them with a partner. The student must wait until he or she has found someone to love. Sexual magic is useless if the man and woman do not love each other. Sexual magic is a straightforward and natural practice, but at the same time, it is delicate. Only brief periods of connection are recommended for beginners because the body needs to get used to sexual transmutation, and practitioners need to develop the willpower to refrain from reaching orgasm. The period can be gradually extended, and one must always pay attention to their body about what is suitable. Cultivate love between yourself and your partner. Do not identify with the sensations of sex, but also do not reject them. Try to keep the mind in a relaxed state. Do not indulge in fantasy or lustful imagination. It is not just a waste of sexual energy, it also feeds desire instead of love. Ultimately, all manifestations of desire must be denied, understood, and eliminated. This is a method learned over time. The higher one can raise their state of consciousness, while in the sexual act, the more effective the transmutation of sexual energy will be. This involves understanding how to meditate. It is not necessary for a beginner to know how to meditate well, yet it is eventually learned through practice. A beginner should simply keep the act to cultivate love with his or her partner, to try to empty the mind and open the heart. After a while, the couple will separate. If the man loses his erection, it is the body's way of informing him that it is time to stop. Those who practice sexual magic should never reach orgasm or ejaculation. When the genital organs become hypersensitive, it is clear that one is approaching the spasm. It is essential to stop well before this happens. It is extremely important that no release whatsoever takes place. Many years of work can be lost in a single moment if one forgets oneself. Sexual connection is best practiced at night or at dawn, because creative acts always take place in darkness. The cosmic influence of the sun prohibits the creation of solar bodies. Nevertheless, daytime practice is acceptable on occasions when other times are impossible. Just be aware that only the understanding and elimination of the ego can take place during daytime practice. Sexual transmutation between man and woman should never be practiced more than once a day due to what is called the creative magnetic pause. The sexual energy cycles through the body every 24 hours, and after an act of sexual magic, this energy is strongly magnetized. Thus, repeating the act on the same day disrupts the body's natural rhythms. Ultimately, it destroys the great potential of sexual energy, or even worse, turns it into something harmful. Pranayama, however, can be practiced as much as needed. Many students find pranayama useful as a guide to perform other tasks. During the act of sexual magic, couples elevate themselves with magnetism. They mutually magnetize each other. In the woman, the pelvis emits female currents, while her breasts emit male ones. In the man, the female current emanates from the mouth and the male one from his virile member. All these organs must be properly stimulated by sexual magic to emit and receive, to transmit and regain vital magnetic forces that increase significantly in quantity and quality. In the house of Gnostic initiates, the purpose of delightful dances, joyful music, and fervent kisses, where couples engage in intimate sexual contact, is the mutual magnetization of man and woman. The magnetic force is both masculine and feminine at the same time. The man needs the fluids of his woman if he truly wants to progress. And inevitably, the woman needs the fluids of her man to develop all her powers. When a couple magnetizes each other daily, business progresses, and happiness nestles in the home. When a man and woman unite, something is created. Scientific chastity allows the transmutation of these sexual secretions into light and fire. Sexuality is both a creator and a destroyer. The creative forces of sex crystallize a new superior nature within the practitioner, while the destructive forces remove one's inferior nature associated with our evolution through the animal kingdom. This is the basis of being reborn. This exquisite nature is collectively called the soul, or more descriptively, the solar bodies. These are three garments of a person's inner self, formed by the saturation of transmuted sexual energy on three successive octaves of energy. In the current human, or rather intellectual animal, these three principles manifest themselves through three inferior garments related to a collective animal nature. In some, they are referred to as the ego. The White Lodge has totally prohibited the sexual spasm. It is absurd to reach the sexual spasm. Those who practice sexual magic should never reach the spasm. Those attempting to avoid seminal ejaculation without giving up the pleasure of the spasm may suffer disastrous consequences for the organism. The spasm is very violent, and if the organism is harmed, the results come immediately, such as impotence, damage to the nervous system, etc. Therefore, those who practice sexual magic must withdraw from the act long before the sexual spasm. Doctors know very well the reasons why those who practice sexual magic must withdraw before the spasm. Sexual magic should be practiced only once a day. One should never practice twice a day. Never in our lives should we waste the seed. One must understand how to adhere to this order of the White Lodge. If we cultivate those divine vibrations of love, then we can strengthen and fortify the embryo of the soul, so that later we can intensively live what we call love. Love strengthens the embryo of the soul. When the embryo becomes stronger, then we reach the incarnation of the soul. Rare are those people who come to feel the divine loving vibrations radiating from the embryo of the soul. What humanity usually feels are the forces of desire. Desire also sings, becomes romantic, and infinitely tender. Desire is the most deceiving poison that exists in the entire cosmos. Anyone who is a victim of the great deceiver will swear that they are in love. Men and women, I invite you to love. Follow the footsteps of that couple in the world who knew how to love. Gods and goddesses make love in the marriage enchantment of paradise. Blessed are the beings who truly love. As we come to the end of our journey, remember that the mysteries of love and spirituality are deeply intertwined. The choices we make in our relationships echo through our souls, shaping our paths in ways we may not fully comprehend. But fear not, for with understanding comes power. Embrace the journey of self-discovery and let the light of knowledge guide you to deeper connections and fulfillment in love and life. If you found this exploration enlightening, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more insightful content, and don't forget to recommend another video to dive deeper into the mysteries of existence. Thank you for joining us on this transformative voyage.